everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about something very interesting, a very interesting topic for me personally because I keep coming back to this story. So I'm going to talk about this story from the Quran today, and I keep coming back to it. Like my life, whatever happens in my life, I keep getting reminded of this story, and I'm just so fascinated by it. And I want to share with you not only the actual story, but also my personal outlook and how it applies in my life and how I make sense of life in general. So I hope you find this interesting. So a little disclaimer for anyone who will end up watching this video. It could be nobody, but just in case, I don't actually speak Arabic, so I don't study the Quran in the original language personally, so I know that the translations can sometimes be a little off. And obviously the traditional Arabic is a very rich language, and the English language is probably not the same, and so it's really hard to find proper interpretation for certain things in the Quran. But my husband speaks traditional Arabic, so he helps me with understanding the stories, and he helps explain them a little bit better than the translations do. So I just like to say that first and foremost, because I know that some of you may be thinking, well, that's not what it actually means or whatever. I think in this situation, the actual perfect translation is not what we're looking for. We're looking for the essence from the story, and I think the essence is a lot more important here. So that's what I want to talk about, not like the word for word translations. So I will be reading like a quick overview of the story in the English language, and I'll leave a link to the website where I'm reading from in the description if you guys are interested. So the story is about Prophet Moses. For some of you who are probably not Muslims, not everyone who's going to stumble upon this could be a Muslim, but if you're not a Muslim, you may not know this, but we do have Prophet Moses in our belief. So this story is about Prophet Moses and a wise man who he accompanies to learn from his wisdoms. So and if you do know this story really well, probably better than me, then maybe this is just a good reminder for you. But like I said, I'm just going to read a quick overview. So here's the overview of the story, and I apologize for not pronouncing some things properly. In Surah Al-Kahf, it is stated that Moses meets the servant of God who has the secret knowledge. Both of them meet at the junction of two seas, and Moses seeks permission from al-Khidr to learn the secret knowledge imparted to him. Al-Khidr told Moses that he won't be able to have patience with him, to which the latter promised to obey unquestioningly. Upon this agreement, both of them boarded the ship. A few moments later, al-Khidr damages the vessel, and Moses questioned him by saying, "Have you made a hole in it to drown its inmates? Certainly you have done a grievous thing." Al-Khidr reminded Moses of his warning. Moses won't be able to have patience with him, to which he pleads not to be rebuked. Al-Khidr now kills the young man, and Moses again cried in astonishment and dismay. Al-Khidr again reminded Moses about his warning, and Moses promised to not break his oath. Next, al-Khidr and Moses proceed to a town, but were denied hospitality. To this, al-Khidr restores a decrepit wall in the town. Moses was amazed and violated his promise again. To this, al-Khidr stated that this violation marks their separation, and now the questions will be answered. Al-Khidr stated that many acts seem to be evil but are actually merciful. The boat was damaged to prevent the inmates from falling into the hands of the king, who seized every boat with the help of his force. The young man was killed as his parents were believers, but he could make disobedience and ingratitude to come upon them. He further stated that God will replace the young man with purity, affection, and obedience. The wall was restored because underneath the wall the treasure belonged to two helpless orphans was stored, and their father was a righteous man. When the two orphans will become older and stronger, and the wall will become weak again, they'll be able to take the treasure that belongs to them. I'd like to note again that the translation could not be the most accurate to the story. However, like I said earlier, I think what's more important here is the essence of the story. This is how I understand this and interpret it for myself. So God created us in his image, and God created everything in this universe, including us and everything about us. So the hormones, the emotions, the feelings, the sense of humor, the laughter, but also the anger, also impatience. God created all of those things. And God also created our brain function, like how our cells work and connect to one another, how we make interpretations and how we perceive things. All of that was created by God. So if you think about that for a minute, I feel like if you believe in that, it's almost impossible to ever try to justify God's interference in our life or God's image. Like, we can't picture something that literally created everything there is. I don't know if this makes sense, but I think another way to say it is, if God decides a certain path for me in my life, who am I to despair? Who am I to lose hope? Who am I to be negative about it and not grateful for his choice for my life? Like, what makes me think that somehow I am a human being and I understand something better than God does, the creator of everything in this universe? But at the same time, I don't want to be too hard and too harsh on humans, because we are humans. We're not perfect. This is not heaven. Life is not perfect, and we are not either. We have emotions, we have feelings, we have hormones and things like that. Of course, when something tough happens in our life, we will react, we will get sad, we will cry, and that's also normal. I think what matters here is, at the end of the day, finding your peace with a certain difficulty in your life. And we should never doubt that in any situation, if we are people of faith, we should never doubt that whatever is happening, it means that God's work is being done in this very moment. So I also believe that God does answer all prayers. If you guys are faithful and you pray, no matter what religion you choose, if you do pray, I believe that God answers all the prayers. However, I don't believe that God answers the prayers in the way that we think is best, because we don't know what is best. And it could be that God is actually answering your prayer right now, but you are interpreting it as something bad. So I'm going to actually use kind of a cliche example right now, but for example, just imagine this, that you have, a flight to catch tomorrow, and you pray, for safety, for everything to go smooth. I always do this. I pray for things to go as they should and as perfectly as possible. And say the next day you're driving to the airport, and in the middle of the road, your car breaks down and you end up being late to your flight, you miss it. And in that moment, obviously, it's very hard to stay positive and to remain hopeful. And most people would react by getting extremely upset. Some people could think, why is God testing me like this? Or what is God punishing me for? Or why is God putting me through this? Where is God? Why isn't he helping me? Why didn't he answer my prayers? And things like that. Or some of you may not even think about God, may forget about God altogether and just get upset and negative. When in fact, this could be the most right thing, the best thing that could happen to you in that very moment. Maybe God interfered and broke your car so you wouldn't get to the airport, because maybe the plane would crash, God forbid, but maybe that was what was going to happen all along. And maybe he was actually answering your prayer and protecting you and providing safety to you that you prayed for, but not necessarily in the way that you thought it would play out. And that's just the thing. In life, this is a very easy, quick example, but there are things in life that you don't know why it's happening until years down the road. I don't know if you've ever heard this speech from Steve Jobs, where he said that you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, meaning you can only make sense of why life turned out the way it turned out after it already plays out and happens. So maybe we will get our answers at the end of our lives. Maybe we won't. It doesn't really matter. And another great example from the Quran is a story of Prophet Yusuf and all the hardship he went through in his life. All the difficulties, all the tough moments, all the moments where he could completely lose hope and give up. But, if you see his story play out, in the very end, he ends up doing so well and living such a great life. And in fact, that is a proof that, you don't know. Like, we could, at the beginning of his journey, he didn't know that all of these hardships were actually a good thing, that were leading him to the best possible outcome in his life. He didn't know that. Just like you could be at the beginning of the journey right now and you could be going through something really difficult and you don't know that this is actually leading you somewhere really, really good. But for now, I'd like to end with this. You know, we do have this life that is given to us and it is our life. And in no way do I think that we should just put everything on God's shoulders and say, you know what, God, just lead my life, lead me, I trust you completely, and not take any action. I don't think that's the right approach in life. Personally, I think that you should set goals and you should make plans and you should follow that plan to try to achieve your goal. But what I think is very important to remember here is that don't ever get rigid, don't ever get stiff in your life. Always be flexible. Let your plan be flexible enough to where it can change and it can be interfered with by God. And He can change your path completely, but it will still lead you to your goal and to what you really want in your life. I do think that taking responsibility for your life and taking action is a huge part of religion that a lot of people, I just don't see a lot of people talk about it. I do think that that shows that you believe in God and you are strong, you are a strong being that He created, and you should take action, you should try to do things, do good things, and go for it. However, never forget a prayer. Never forget to rely on God, because at the end of the day, He is our creator. He is one who can just say be and it becomes, and He can make things so much easier for you. But the key is, once you pray, you have to trust in God and trust that He will take care of you and He will provide for you. And sometimes it may not be in the way that you think is best for you. And I really think that if you think you know what's best for you, that's very, very arrogant, because you don't. Who are you to ever question God and His plan for you? So I think that it's very humbling to be reminded that God knows what's best for you. And like I said, I just, in my personal life, I keep getting reminded of this story because I keep praying for things and seemingly, my prayers are not answered, but I'm sure that later on in life, I'm going to look back and I'm going to say, oh, wow, that was actually for the best. And in fact, even looking back at my childhood, looking back at my teens and my earlier in my life, everything I went through, maybe one day I'll share online. I really don't feel comfortable right now, but maybe one day I will. But looking back, there were a lot of hardships. There were a lot of difficult situations. But looking back, I can tell right now that that was for the best, because it made me who I am today. It made me want the life that I have right now. It made me actually get closer to God, which is weird, because if you know my my story, you probably would think that I should go in the opposite direction, but it actually landed me here in this moment in my life. So I feel like, yes, that was definitely for the best. But I feel like my life is still happening. Things are still happening for me and changing and ever evolving. So I feel like I will maybe fully understand everything at the end of my life. I don't know. I pray to God that I do. But yep, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. And once again, I hope this is a good reminder for somebody. And if nobody watches it, it's okay. It's a good reminder for me to talk about this. So anyway, if you did watch it though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.